That's not at all what I
He
said.
said, no, I'm like, he said, hook me up with all the shots when I come home, whatever. No, but I'm just saying, sometimes you just look at that, but, it's just, I mean, it's just interesting. So I usually throw up the thing and just, I'm a vaccinator. I mean, I believe in vaccines, I'm just gonna get vaccinated, but I sometimes people don't know what to do, and they look towards people. Unfortunately, they look towards me a lot of times. What do you think about that new shot? What do you think? And so you just really, so.
But even providers, I mean, even myself, we go by what the recommendations
Right,
are.
I know.
And until you look into this stuff and figure out that, wait a minute, that, you know, everybody over 60 isn't gonna get benefit from this shot. And of those 34 people that got less severe illness, 6 got severe neurological disorders. So they got Guillain-Barré or some other neurologic manifestation, and one of them died. So I'm gonna send 17,000 people to get vaccinated and not save one life, but it could cost one life. And again, I just think that a lack of knowledge or a lack of information, maybe is a better word, and misinformation winds up creating those conspiracy theories. And that's where public health
Right.
suffers. Is once you open that door to the conspiracy theorists, then so many of the public start to get distracted and pulled away from real information, that's when we have a harder time, I think is my point, was, you know, and again, the conversation came up with all the prior viruses that had come out from swine flu and bird flu and SARS, and, you know, this was gonna be the end all be all, and then wasn't, and I think, you know, again, the federal and state levels are different than local level public health, and they need to be careful on how they present things.
You know, a good one though is the pneumonia shot. You know, people think if you take the pneumonia shot, you won't get pneumonia.
Oh, totally.
Well, but it's, the problem, it's pneumococcal pneumonia, which is not that common and it's really a bad thing, but
And
you know,
multiple different
when you talk
strains.
to, I got the pneumonia shot, I'll never get pneumonia. If you talk, I'll bet the 10 people on the street.
Or I had pneumonia and I had the shot.
You
so
know,
I didn't
yeah,
get
right,
pneumonia.
you know, and that's
Yes.
misleading, I'm
Right.
sure.
Yes, yes. So the right information is always key, and I just, it bothered me the last couple of days looking that up, that it sounds like such a wonderful vaccine with 60 to 80% effectiveness, but is it, you know, is it really the right for everybody?
What about the one with the mother having the baby protected, and that's one of the things babies are really at risk for?
Again, I think that's a
So,
different story.
I mean,
think
that
that's
sounds like it's a good,
I would
mean,
not disagree.
to
But
do-
again, I couldn't find any data on that,
Mhm.
to drill down to see what was the effectiveness and what was the outcome for those kids whose mother had it
Mhm.
prior to them getting
Get the
sick.
natural, yeah.
So it's hard when, you know, when you search the RSV vaccine study, and that's not the first thing that popped up, it was at the bottom of the page, the actual study, you know, that's, it's odd.
Mhm.
Who conducted the study?
Pfizer.
Oh,
Yeah.
and their marketing team?
Yes.
Mhm.
Now, they were with several national institutions, but
Mhm.
Pfizer funded it, they paid for everything, and were involved in writing the final article. It was published in New England Journal of Medicine. But, again, it was odd to read an article that gave no mention of mortality.
Right.
You
and it
think
took
the article would at least said
and
there
it
was
took you
no
an
difference in
hour to find
mortality.
that.
Yeah.
As a physician, it took you an hour.
Yeah,
If
yeah.
a layperson just was trying to find the information.
But that wasn't in the original printed article, was odd to me. Anyway, so.
So we have to ask our
The debate
providers,
continues.
There you have it.
we have
And-
to
and to
ask,
back
ask our
up
providers,
Jackie's
did you
comment.
give this to your mama and daddy?
I'm a big proponent of vaccines, for sure. All my kids had all their
Yeah,
vaccines.
yeah.
I'm a big proponent, but I think that, again,
I wouldn't take it.
there's a
I'm an
big
old person.
push for anti-vaccine. I think that has come out of a lot of
I mean,
questionable,
It's coming cold.
data and information that could have been handled differently. And I think COVID was a
Right.
perfect example of how poor decisions were made about a lot of things in COVID that, again, allowed conspiracy theories to creep up and just damage public health for years to come.
mhm.
Okay, that's my presentation.
I like that one, a little spicy today. Okay, old business with Fab.
We're just continuing on. We are preparing our, after accreditation, the first year, you have to do an annual report, so we're working on that.
Okay. And tobacco 21, we're getting, we're closing in on it.
Closing in on it. Moving forward, it is information in the packet. Carla may wanna, expand on this, but it's information in the packet that Hamilton is looking at putting some disability teeth into theirs as well. And so
That's funny.
we will probably move forward to do something. I know it's right now in the hands of development and city manager or whatever, but I'm hoping, have you heard any more as far as on city council? I'm hoping that we will then just put that little caveat in there as far as capping. So hopefully.
Just that little one.
It's that little one, yeah. So to be continued, but we're pushing
Is that
forward.
is that like what they do on the Hill, just like slide it on
Yeah,
in there?
yeah, Bill is still just a bill on Capitol Hill till it becomes a. Carla, anything else?
Yeah, we'll be sending out our, letters, application, and towards the end of, October, and we're still around the 70 facilities, so they'll go out. I think it's, I'll just send them out October 23rd. That gives them about 2 months to get their applications in by December 31st.
So I was joking about the slide in here. What is the I mean, is there a process that they're planning to follow to get, is it going through a planning commission?
The last I heard is he, being the city manager, was gonna check with Ben to see if this could be placed in there under this amendment on our resolution that we already passed last November without it going to, because we're not
So the
saying
Board
it
of Health
can't.
would approve it?
Yeah. Yeah, so
I
it,
mean,
so that's what.
I have an email from Ben that he doesn't recommend that.
Right, but, I mean, looking at the other
Not that we
information.
couldn't do it, and
Right.
he says not that we couldn't, but it's not.
Right, and that's what Oxford did, so maybe they'll see that, and if that's what Oxford did, and if that's what, Hamilton is gonna do, just as, because you're not saying it can't go certain places, you're just saying that we're gonna cap it at, so, and then, so, that's why I say, I'll just follow back, it's the other things that keeps taking precedent, and it's just kinda getting pushed back, but I'll make sure that it may be it might just come to city council that they agree that we won't do zoning, we'll just, do the, cap the number at 70. I do
Because I
know
remember-
that we're not doing remember you were saying, what is it called, like where you halt? Yeah, moratorium,
Yeah,
we're
it's a
not,
little
we
late
can't
for
do
that
that yet.
anyway,
Mhm.
really.
Cause that definitely would have had to been done by you all, yeah.
I know, I just remember the conversation, Councilmember Moon said he would be more in favor of zoning restrictions than capping numbers. I just remember that comment.
And I think the only reason why that is not necessarily wise, maybe in the future, but most of these stores are in,
I know.
are in the areas of schools and parks, and they're already there, so. But
Okay.
hopefully the November meeting, we will have an answer, and I'll send out, if something's solid, I'll email everyone out.
Okay. Next, on to new business, travel authorizations. Do we have any of that?
I don't think we have any.
Didn't
Yes,
see
no,
it, okay.
I don't think we have any.
Okay, we have final readings. Does that mean we're voting today on these?
Mhm.
All right. Do we have a motion to read ordinance number 2023-01 and 2023-02 by title only?
So moved.
All in favor? All opposed? Okay, so then we're gonna vote individually on these. So we have ordinance number 2023-01 is the food fees. Do we have a motion to approve ordinance number 2023-01?
So moved. Second.
Got it. All in favor? All opposed? Okay, the motion passes. And do we have a motion to approve ordinance number 2023-02, campground fees?
So moved.
Second. All in favor? All opposed? Okay, campground fees have passed. We've got 2023 third quarter report. Jackie, are you doing that?
Yes, that's just in the
Okay.
packet. This is just the report compared from last year to this year. And it's just all of our diseases and, just the basic information, food retail. Just letting you know that our vital stats is down. I told Amanda to check other departments, in Butler County, theirs are down too. It appears that it's probably just less births and,
Driver's license are also good for 8 years now.
yeah, so that might be it too. We're just trying to look at the trend,
How does
why?
that impact?
People always lose their birth certificates and have to come in and buy new ones. And now they're good for
Oh.
8 years.
So we're looking at all the different things.
amazing
I
how
know,
things
isn't it
impact.
crazy?
No kidding.
The state has the ability, the state let us do all of this, computerized birth certificates, so they have the ability to do birth certificates as well now, very easy, since we input all the information at the local level years ago. And theirs is 23 or 21, so maybe, maybe people would get them there. All of ours around this area is 25. We're trying to look at what could be going on, but it's like anywhere. Finance has a lot of new people in finance, and they're, behind in some of our, what do you call it, deposits.
Input.
But even so, we're looking at it still around $13,000, deficit. All of environmental is up, and so we're looking at the trends of that. So it could be, more information to come. Amanda has a vital stat meeting coming up, and she can put in the chat, is everybody seeing it across the state to see? It may very well be that 4-year, 8-year, because you don't need anything until,
More places are also accepting copies of death certificates. You used to have an original to send to every place, and now they're accepting copies, so they're buying 1 or 2 versus 12 or 14.
so all of those, so. To be continued, but we watch the trends of our revenue. But other than that, that's the quarterly, unless anyone has questions on the quarterly report.
Okay, well, that brings us to open discussion. Anyone have any topics they want to bring up today? I thought go ahead.
Just out of curiosity, I was reading in there was 2 things, maybe it'll come up later, about the restaurant, what was it, a Pizza Hut and
Oh, yes.
what?
Carla will.
I read that, but I don't know what their violations were.
Yeah, in our report, we can
Does that
talk
come
about it now.
later?
Yeah, that's okay,
Okay.
we can talk about it now. We had 2 pre-administrative hearings, and Carla can talk about it. But Carla, and Janae and Sarah, the environmental department, brought those 2 restaurants in to meet with me as to why they weren't, one, complying with either, food rules, or I think Pizza Hut was, they just were not answering back as far as their renovations or whatever. So Carla you probably have it in your notes to talk about, but you wanna talk any more about that, Carla? Are you just gonna wait till your,
I can.
wait till the report?
Any other open discussion topics? I met with the Cub Scout Pack 85 last night. It's a pretty big meeting. We met down in council chambers, and what I was noting is, I asked them what they thought was the most important, these are 5th graders, what they thought was important about the city, and they said the litter. So from a health perspective, and this is not the first time, the kids are all upset about the litter in Middletown. So I asked them what we could do about it. I said, what do we do? How do we communicate? Like, we don't know. So they're gonna help each other pick up the city, but I just thought I'd mention it because I brought my books of my codes, the ordinance books, and
Mhm.
they were enthralled with the ordinances of the city. They went up and looked at the litter laws, and then they found a law from 1945 that says you cannot spit.
Uh-oh.
So there you go. From a health perspective, litter is important, and you can't spit in public in Middletown. So there's my update.
Yeah, I'm a big believer. Yeah, I'm a big believer in campaigns. Do you remember you used that Smokey the Bear with forest fires, and you said, don't be a litter
Yeah.
bug or whatever, and I think that really does work. And when we drop all of those campaigns, even the smoking campaigns and whatever, all of them, I think they really worked. So, I don't know, but I believe, I was driving my little grandson, and somebody just threw all the trash out the window, and I said, look at that. I mean, there's no way you can report it, it's so quick. I'm like, look at that. So I made them, pick it up, it was in front of the house when we were going, I said, let's just pick up these cups or whatever. But look how rude that is, but
Yeah.
I still am so offended, I'm like, at least sneak it out window, but just throw it out, I'm like, that's so rude, but anyway.
Well, it does fall under health and sanitation in the code, so.
You have to get a little litter bug person.
Yeah, if the Board of Health ever wanted to mount a campaign, that would be well supported by our youth.
Mhm.
That's fine. Okay, Jackie, you have, your report?
Yes, real quick, and I'll let Carla do the restaurants if you would, but, we, are in budget season, and they kind of submitted budget, presented like a loose budget or whatever. It wasn't, it was just a presentation of the non-public safety budget to council at last council meeting, which we fall underneath that budget. And as I was telling the mayor, we're all, at this time of year, it usually starts in August, where it's PBO, pay and benefit ordinance, and if you wanna add staff, add a position, change ranges, you're supposed to do it then. And then you go over your budget and see if it fits into the budget. So we've been kind of working around that, not quite finished, but we were trying to get, they did a salary study too, so they were trying to get everybody kind of in ranges with our surrounding governments or whatever, so that's going on now. It's not solidified yet, but it should be soon that they're getting that. I think they're gonna make everybody on the same pay scale now. Before they had an old pay scale and a new pay scale with our numbers. So those numbers are moving around. I like to put the budget in the packet so you guys can see it, so that when the city council approves the budget, and I think they do it in November, first and second readings or something like that, then the health board does, we approve it in December, because they
We
have
did do
to
a
approve our
first
budget
reading.
first. Did you?
We had a presentation, didn't we?
You had a
do the
presentation,
reading?
but you didn't do a reading. No, it
No,
should
we
be in
didn't do the
November,
reading yet.
yeah.
Okay.
Cause they were still, I think he had said that the courts and the health department had to still finish their,
Okay.
yeah, so. So usually it's like council first and second in November, and then it's pretty much solid, and then we vote on ours in December, once they have it. Cause if we try to change something, they can't go backwards. And everything has to be done by, should be done, it's come close before, but by December 31st, so that it can begin January 1. And so that's what the budget, and we always try our best. In the past, and I'll say this over and over, and it gets kind of confusing, but the health department, like the courts, are separate than the departments in the city, and we usually carry over our budget. So in the past, and they can do it any way they want to, but in the past, we always were allowed to carry our budget over, and we really were pretty tight with our budget, because we know how, when times fall hard, we have to kind of get it out of a department that have nothing to get it out of. The city has only 2 departments, maybe, correct me if I'm wrong, and it's Public Works and the Finance Department that can support its own department, because they get revenue in. The rest of the departments are city departments, and so that would be your HR department, even your city council department, your law department, all of those are pretty much, are subsidized 100% from the city taxpayers. Our department is subsidized depending on how much we need, but we do make revenue, but never enough to support, and our highest cost is our personnel. So every year, when we get our budget, lately, they've been spending our grant money, which I always say is fine as long as you support us when we need money, but sometimes we haven't been seeing that actual amount carry over. And what they do is they'll take away from the subsidy. So say, for instance, we get 200,000 from city subsidy. If we're supporting ourselves like we did during COVID, we, at some years, got 0 because we were supporting ourselves. So we didn't get to carry over some of that extra money. So we always try to be really, like I said, tight budget, because we don't wanna blow up our budget. I don't want in 5 years we have to lay off everybody, because, so that's why even in good times, when we have workforce development money or whatever, and we can hire 5 more people, we don't do that, because it may last 5 years, and then you have to kind of lay everybody off. So we're really careful doing that and not doing that. Last but not least, Carla and Chandra are going to meet with a Hispanic Latino person. When I was going to Head Start, they have a big influx of a lot of the Latinos in our community. And I always said, let me know if you want a job over the summer or whatever, because they speak really good English. But we're seeing a lot of mothers come to the department with babies. We're seeing a lot of people come with food trucks and restaurants, and it's very difficult to communicate with them. We thought we would put the applications in Spanish, but then we realized we wouldn't be able to read it. Because they were like, do you have this in Spanish? We're like, well, we could get that, but then we wouldn't know what you're saying. So we really feel like that is very important to have. I think the city has talked about maybe getting somebody, but you can use these apps, but it's really hard to use the apps, and it's really, I'm a nurse, it's kind of incompetent when you really can't communicate really well, and you're yelling, thinking they understand you better.
Makes it better.
Yeah.
If you talk loud.
Yeah, right, and slow. What do you, so if we were able to do this, we're thinking that it even may bring more revenue too, because people usually will come places that people can understand them to. And so they may get their birth certificates here, they may get more businesses here, whatever. So to be continued, but we just need it. We need it when Chandra has cases that we go back to a person that we had hired during COVID to help us talk to people if their kids are sick or whatever. So having somebody in-house, and it would be on the workforce development grant, and it would be part-time. So it would be like a health clerk out front, and just to help the office. So to be continued. We don't know if this will materialize, but they're meeting with her coming up. So that's it. And then homeless, no one's still really addressing the homeless population. Right now, a lot of places are still cutting down the trees and the brush or whatever, so we are still seeing an influx. However, since the gathering was closed and since the syringe exchange went away, people are saying that they're seeing less. The police are saying they're seeing less people, I guess, loitering around. And we got reports that Hamilton is seeing more, because they may have gone down to their feeding program. So to be continued. I think the city manager had a meeting with some of the other city managers as far as that county money, to see if they can come up with a solution, but there are just still talks in where everybody calls the police when they're seeing an increase in traffic. That's what they're calling it, traffic. I have a historical meeting tonight, and they brought in the city council candidates as part of the meeting, as well as one of the agenda topics is the people that we're seeing on the street again or whatever. So people are concerned, but no one has a solution. So we're trying to force county still to have a county solution, to hire a person to be responsible. At least we're gathering the data, all the data together. So to be continued with that. If anybody knows anything. Yes, Jeff, did you have something?
Yeah, on your the budgetary control report, the other professional services, what does that include?
It is always in that, and Carla's gonna have to help me in that square. We have $10,000 allotted for TB. And TB is the responsibility of the county, but if we have to do medications, if we have to do anything outside of what the county does, that is a safeguard there. We also put nurses in there, anybody beyond the nurses, and so, like if Chandra had something, if there's an outbreak, we have to hire nurses. We also have a sanitarian there. It was one time when Carla was off and she was by herself that we had a sanitarian that covered the weekend. So we just have that, and I think it may be, Carla, it might be I don't think it's licensing, but it's something else because we have it all itemized down at the bottom. We rarely have to go into there, but it's kind of like that safety net if we had an emergency to come up with in there.
So if money's
Yeah.
left over, that's good.
Right.
news.
And and usually it's a good place when we have to cut 5% like we did this year. It's a good place to cut 5% from. We only need that 10,000 for TB is when we need that 10,000, and we haven't used it probably in 10 years probably.
And
But we did use it during the time of, remember with Hillbilly Heaven, we did use that when we were doing, over Thanksgiving weekend, direct observe therapy, and when we have to do things, but we haven't used it in a while, so, yeah. That is the area, the mayor probably can comment on that, that's the area that all the council people hate, other professional services,
Aye.
because it's a vague area,
Yeah.
but people kind of, it's just that kind of like a cash reserve probably that you can tap into. Understand, we never put our hands on cash, other than our birth and death. I was like so glad with the Central Connections, which I will go into, Central Connections. We're still waiting to hear if the city, deal of that 1.8 goes through. So right now, we're still tenants there, and we're still open from 8:30 to 4:30. Kind of rolling right along as far as making sure everything is, continuing. Some of the billiards guys wanna have tournaments on Friday night, 6 to 9. I said,
Mission
just-
critical.
Yeah, 6 to 9, I said, no, I can't. Yeah, and so, I think they really want to, and it is hard, mission critical, this is not mission critical unless you're really looking at the whole bond and the social and the networks that they form, right? That's over there because.
Which could be done a lot of places.
Yes. Yeah, I was over there on the Friday and I just had, cause everybody was sick that day, Jerry was sick and I was there all Friday and then Carla brought me some, copies cause I needed the schedule. And it was so lovely just having fun with them, right? And for 1 second I thought, oh, this wouldn't be a bad job. And I'm like, but you're just smiling and looking pretty. You don't have to do budgets, you don't have to work with a board, you don't have to staff, you don't have to have grants, cause it's a lot more to that building. And I keep telling them, it was a good day, cause we did Q&As that day, and I kept telling them, we have to be able to sustain this facility. It's a large facility, it costs a lot, we have to be able to sustain it. We have to raise the membership, we have to raise, and I'm letting them know that unless something happens and it's concrete, we're still at risk of losing this because we cannot afford this facility. And I keep telling them that they keep wanting to talk about somebody taking money. I'm like, we really didn't have enough money in this facility in general. It's been losing money for years, and it just maybe was helped along maybe, but it's an expensive facility. And so, and even the silver sneakers and even the grants I've been looking at, it's I put it on this packet, it's this elderly grant, that ODH, healthy aging grants. You can get all those grants and still you have to have a solid plan for that large facility. Like you have to have rentals and events, and then you have to have tenants that pay.
What would you do, if you were
Yeah.
in charge?
Oh, if I was in charge, I would fill all those offices. I would fill the offices up and I would have events in the evenings and weekends. Hit it hard in the evenings and weekend, and because people still want, I mean, I'm penciling in next year's schedule, people are calling us to say, can I book it? And I tell them we don't know what we're gonna do yet, but I can put your name down, because if we do open up events next year, then Sally Cash won it September 14th and you would be the first dibs, you know what I mean, that kind of thing. But yeah, it needs to, right now I'm trying to find out how much it really costs. Duke and water and all that kind of stuff, right? You'd have to know what the cost of the facility is, and then get all the upkeep, the grass. I can only think about the snow and, it's just a lot of land back there too, so.
I tried to get that information from Duke and about that building, and
Well, they were
Did it?
saying, the board had told me that the back building is $1,000 a month, and the front building is something like $4,000 to $5,000 a month for the utilities, yeah. For just the Duke, gas and electric, but that was when they were having a full kitchen, cause all that's gas in there, that's when they were having evenings and weekends, 7 days a week pretty much. And so now, since we've been there and everything's been 8:30 to 4:30 since August, then we can probably get some clean bills to see kind of what it looks like from that time. But nothing's going on but turn on the lights and what I mean? They had heat on it one day. I'm like, who has the heat on in the kitchen? And then I realized I was out there with old people. I calmed down. I'm teasing old people, I'm old too. So I laughed, I said, because they were laughing when I was talking to them, and I said, then I walked in the kitchen and the heat hit, and I'm like, you don't put heat on me. But anyway, we had fun laughing and joking. They're great, 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 great population, and they really feel, you all, we have to realize this, they really feel entitled. And as we get older, we really feel like we're entitled to have certain things. We've paid into them, we're used to them, and so we have to be very careful and mindful of that, because they just said, don't take anything else away from us, don't take it. So, we'll see. But, I think with the senior citizens, city manager is gonna, he wants to form a task force to ... Because I kept saying, what's our goal? But ... So, to be continued, but we're still, I think they're out there, happy, and we have not brought back the silver sneakers yet, because we have to go through all of the contract, and I don't really wanna do anything solid and look into it until we actually get complete control of the building, right? When we can say it's ours, because right now.
Well, what's going on there during the day? I go by there because I live up, I mean, there's cars in the parking lot. What are they doing?
Silver Sneakers is now called Diamond Sneakers. It's about 70 people in that
Oh,
class.
so they have that still.
Yes.
It's just a different name.
Just a
Okay.
different name, yeah. And then they have Fit After 50, and they have Pinochle, and they have Left, Right, Center, Bingo, Bridge, was it Chasta, or something like that, and Bungo, and Carrion, and, yep, they have a lot of stuff going on, yep. Billards, there's a lot of stuff going on there. Okay, and then, I have a happy thing to report, and then one last sad thing to report. So, Sunrise through Ruth is my connection. I met with Nicole Ward over at the Senior Citizens. They have a day that they like to give back to the community, and they wanted to give back to the seniors. I'm sure Ruth was, nudged them in that, and I appreciate it. The building is beautiful, but it's not getting deep cleaning. The city is sending the staff over Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. So, and then us in the front, kind of, Carla and I took down some of the little globes and washed them. Carla mopped the floor in the front when they, so we got extra staff over there kind of doing that kind of stuff. But they're gonna come in and do some glass cleaning, because the doors and the windows and all of that needs, when it gets fingerprints. It's a beautiful building, and I really am gonna do my best to keep it up, because if you're not, when you start looking around, you'll start seeing things fall into disrepair. We don't want that, so try to keep as clean as possible. So they'll be in there from 11 to 3, with probably people that can climb ladders and bend down and stuff like that, and get the window, and get the windows and stuff cleaned up for us. So the city's gonna supply the cleaning supplies, and they will have the hard work, so I appreciate that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And on the sad note, Janae put her resignation in. That's where everybody has that. She is going to the city of Hamilton, to be Assistant Health Commissioner, so. And her last day is the 20th, I think, so, yeah. She did put that, yesterday, so, right in time for the board. So we're gonna put in, we need just you guys to accept this. We don't vote on it, just accept the resignation first, and then we'll go and start working with HR to put her position in and try to get another sanitarian in soon. Hopefully we can get somebody trained. If not, Carla, it would be the only sanitarian, and she will be going out with Sarah, which is a sanitarian training, which is, she's been really helpful. It is this little gnat flying around here. She's been excellent, and so I'm glad we have her on board, and so we will try to fill that position as soon as possible. You got anything else with that? I think that is.
Do we need to make a motion to accept?
No,
No.
usually,
Okay.
the reason why you wouldn't vote on that, I hire and fire staff.
Okay, I didn't
You
remember
guys
doing
hire-
that, but,
So I just, yeah, yeah.
okay.
I have never fired. Athlete. Look.
Nudge
Maybe
someone.
nudged. I have nudged, knocked them out in the parking lot. No, that's it. I think that's all it. I think the, seniors are in good hands. They say over and over and over, they really appreciate the city's support. So, I think it's a meeting coming up with city council, early meeting, what do you call it?
Yeah, but
And it was supposed to be for one center, but it sounds like it's out there for both, and so you'll have probably a mixture of a full meeting again.
yes, no, it's not.
Yeah.
immensely, but
Yeah.
it's really more about a community center.
Yeah.
I don't, it's gonna
Yeah.
be,
I think, yeah, because a lot of them are thinking, oh, it's another meeting coming down there, and I'm like, oh, gosh, because, you know, those meetings, they don't get to talk, right?
Mhm.
They just get to
No.
sit and listen. So you'll have a combination of two, and I would hate to pit two two against each other, because, but anyway, to be continued, that's on the 17th, I think, at 3? Is it 3:00 usually? 3, kind of?
I thought it was at 4.
4? Is it?
well,
It might be 4 to 5:30,
I'm the one
that's
who
enough
called.
time.
I didn't put it in here.
4:30 to 4.
I'm glad you mentioned that, actually, because.
Yeah. But that's the end of my report, because you look in there, so.
Okay, who is,
You see it?
Thank you.
Did you get it?
I saw it earlier.
yeah.
Oh, you
I
did
see
too.
another one.
Dr. Genoa, would you like to give us your report next?
Of course. Portable illnesses, apparently I missed quite the educational opportunity here, because this apparently was GI and diarrhea month for portable illnesses.
There's
Boy.
always next
We
month.
had,
Yeah.
getting ready for flu, cold, RSV season, everyone had to get their GI illnesses out of them, so. We had 4 Campylobacter, we had 2 carbapenemase producing Enterococcus, 1 Shiga toxin producing E. coli, 1 Giardia, and 1 hepatitis A. So those are all kinds of GI diarrheas.
All while I was on vacation.
We of course couldn't, I'm sorry?
Every one of them while I was on vacation.
We of course can't forget our typicals, we had 28 chlamydia, 15 gonorrhea, and 1 syphilis. 3 hepatitis B, 3 hepatitis C, but the most interesting really was 1 Legionella, which I understand Shonda's going to elaborate on a little more after this. That's all I had.
Is that for Mr. Sean? No?
Yeah.
Yes, you're next. Okay. Can't remember the order.
So, before diseases, just want to let you know we are now offering, our flu vaccine and our, updated COVID vaccines for our uninsured population. Through the state of Ohio, everybody else who has insurance, we are informing to reach out to their providers or pharmacies, because they have the ability to bill their insurance and still get it for free in a sense. We don't have that ability, so we are here to help support our uninsured population. Our diseases, like I said, it's amazing. All of that happened while I was on vacation, so thankfully, Butler County was covering and did the investigations for the majority of those. The Legionella was a very pleasant gentleman to speak with. He had no significant travel history or typical exposure history where we are concerned whether they've been in any type of long-term or short-term medical facilities, hotels with spas or hot tubs, anything that produces that mist that you inhale. He had none of that in his history leading up to his illness. The only exposure he had that, stuck in his head is he had a window air conditioner unit that was freezing. The condensers were freezing. In his mind, he's set that's his likely thing, and because it's freezing up anyway, he's getting rid of it. But he was hospitalized, but is recovering well. But it's just a very interesting thing that, unfortunately don't know the true exposure of where he could come down with it. The Campylobacters were related to a puppy, a new puppy that was purchased from a breeder. They've all been tied back to this exposure to this puppy. So I'm still now trying to follow up as to whether or not what the additional testing, we're trying to get some testing done, basically to find the lineage, to see whether or not they are multi-drug resistant. Because, again, one of the people found up in the hospital with septicemia, pretty sick, but again, is recovering well, but it's just the fact of, 4 people get exposed to this one little puppy, and they were even testing the adult dog in home, to see whether or not the adult dog is sick as well. So I'm still in the process of following up to see where those samples are. But yeah, it was an interesting end of the month, to say the least. But I think that's all I have, because Jackie already said we're talking with the Latino hopeful this week.
And we are doing Suncoast Clinic still.
Yeah,
That's
actually,
coming up.
this morning, Suncoast was being completed by Irene, the nurse that we've contracted with since beginning of COVID. She picked up all those supplies and went this morning, and she'll go this afternoon, and then either she will or I will go on Thursday and repeat the process again. So a great community partner.
Great, thank you. We've received plans for Waffle House, which will be located on Commerce Drive. Salon Halo, which is a permanent makeup, that's on Roosevelt. Grant Distillery, which is on Roosevelt. And Dollar Tree, which is located where the old Rite Aid is located.
Really?
Yeah. We have, two pre-administrative hearings, on the September the 12th, and that was for, the letters showed, that was for Pizza Hut, and Taku Restaurant. Pizza Hut pretty much have complied, they had pretty much complied the day that they, came in, and that was basic, they had purchased, the two Pizza Huts located in the city, and they had to bring the facility up to standards, and somehow there was some communication. They claimed they didn't get the information. So the restaurant wasn't passing the information on to the managers or owners. However, we emailed the owner the information. He was supposedly out of the country, but they pretty much complied. Taku was still raiding. They had some food safety violations. The owner is pretty well knowledgeable. Sometimes when she's not there, there's a language barrier with the other facilities. So we asked her to get some food training in their native language. That might help them know what the rules are if they get the training in their language. So we're waiting for her to submit the paperwork on that. So the Heritage Festival this weekend, we had like 13 food vendors, and it was I think it was pretty successful. I thought pretty successful event. There was a big language barrier. The setups were great, but it was very difficult to communicate. A lot of the operators did not speak English. A student from, I think she went Butler Tech, she asked to walk around with us, cause a couple of her relatives had food booths, and then she had to leave. I was so excited because she walked around with us, but she would come back, throughout the event, but, so it would be nice if we can hire someone, cause it was a big language barrier, not many spoke English, at all. So, yeah, I can only imagine it being bigger next year. I thought it seemed to be a nice event.
Yeah, and culturally speaking, a lot of people really don't think, I mean, they really think what they're doing is okay. Because, you know, we leave food out like, I mean, like, you know, the turkey stays out all day on Thanksgiving type thing, and you just can't let that happen if you're serving it. So, I mean, I think sometimes they don't understand, we used to do this.
Yeah, one lady had these cream cheese pastries. I mean, she had trays and trays of them. And that's like, you can't have this out at room temperature. I mean, the trays were like huge. And she said, well, in Puerto Rico, we leave them out and they go so fast. I'm like, well, here you gotta keep them refrigerated. So and it's really difficult to communicate that. They just don't understand that, so.
I think their gut's different too, isn't it, Paul?
Yeah.
Really, I'm serious.
Different.
Well, it's
Their
actually-
gut is,
Yeah.
yeah, their gut is different when you go, I mean, because they can get used to that. We wouldn't get used to, I mean,
Yeah.
it would take time for our gut to get used to those, you know, hanging out all day like that, so, yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I meant, their guts are different. Everybody
So
got the same guts.
We probably spent double the time we would normally spend.
Yeah.
And on, usually takes us 10 minutes, we probably double that, not triple the time, with each vendor, because we really wanted to try to communicate and understand, help them understand why they were doing, why we expect them to do what they need to do, so.
Do you have any update on the former 513 Lounge? They said they're putting an Indian restaurant in there.
Right, I talked to the owner not too long ago, and he still hasn't,
Okay.
no update.
Because I went through there for the first time yesterday just to like see it, and he, without prompting, said, we're putting an Indian restaurant next door.
Yeah, he's probably there working and
I
letting us
understand.
know, and then like, oh, can I get this approved, but he knows
Okay.
better, but, yeah.
Yeah, we'll stop in there.
Huh?
I think you can stop in there.
Yeah, I talk to him all the time, yeah, on there, hopefully they're just paying him more. Just continuing with, theft deliverables, completed 2 for a total of $2,095.71. And that's, deliverable 7.1, 3.1, activity reporting and training, and Janae usually does the theft deliverables. But Chandra, I guess that'll be, Chandra and myself will have to tackle, all the theft training
We've already got a new spreadsheet made
and,
up yesterday.
deliverables. And I believe for me that is, again, tobacco, we'll send out the tobacco letters, the end of October, so. And we have about 70 of those. And I'm also working with law to develop some standard letters for, businesses, tobacco businesses that do not apply for the license or operating without a license, so I'll work with them on getting those letters, standard letters. That's it.
Okay, anything else? Anyone hadn't thought of, they wanted to share? Okay, with that, we will adjourn until November 14th, 7:30 a.m. And I confirmed the council workshop is at 4 p.m.
4 p.m.?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I just told Troy, I was